That is very important. So,
yes.
so allow me to ask you this as you proceed,
yes.
and I'm sure Bilo will want to come on on the same. Look at, for example, when the current administration came to power in 2023, jobs were advertised, and this is a very critical agency, the Kenya Revenue Authority. And the manner in which that process was done was challenged in a court of law. And thereafter it was established that 70% of that workforce came from two communities, Central and in the Rift Valley, forming the bulk of the government at the time before the fallout ceremoniously. So out of the 1,500 employees, 700 came from these two communities. If then we are to embody this vision, as it's now touted, the Singapore model, Lee Kuan Yew certainly would not tolerate such, is it?
Obvious.
He based his appointments on merit and competency.
Obvious.
And you look at a nomination that was done for our diplomatic posting in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the nominee appeared before the Defense Foreign Intelligence Committee, and the only qualification he had was being a petrol station attendant. How then do we make this huge leap if certainly this is our trait?
So this is why I'm saying there are a number of fundamental things we must do them. That is one of them. We must reform our public sector and do it in a way that we get the best in terms of implementing the vision. Because if you have a vision and then implementers are not people who can push to that level, you have a challenge. Look at the issue of public debt. Because you require resources to implement this vision. In a situation where our public debt is taking almost all the resources, how much more resources do you have to implement the vision? Another thing you must sit and think, how do you sort this one out? The issue of unemployment, he has just mentioned, about 80% are in informal sector. So how do you formalize? Because when you're talking about informal sector, even the issue of revenue collection in terms of taxes, because they don't have a very well-structured way of collecting taxes, it actually defeats the whole essence of getting more resources to implement your vision. The issue of corruption. None of us has mentioned the issue of corruption, although we are mentioning governance issues. Corruption is another big problem in this country, and we all appreciate that unless we address, this country is the first class, what we call the first world countries. I'm sure when you look at the way they conduct their business, corruption is never mentioned every day that we are a corrupt nation. Leaders have gone out of their way to ensure that this thing called corruption is dealt with. And dealt with to an extent that, you know, there's what we call living by example. That if you are at the top there, and that's what we're saying, leadership to some extent, although I see below downplaying it, I can tell you for sure at the end of the day, the vision carrier, in most cases, is the leader. And it's the one who whips everybody to rally behind them so that you push to achieve the vision. Another item which is also critical, because is the issue of our education sector. If you look at that document, it talks about first-class education, first-class health services. Are we there? Are you? Currently, what is happening to our education sector? So if you don't prepare the nation to have the right skills, the right personnel to implement your vision, what would happen? So to me, these are the things I'm calling them fundamentals, which you must get them right, so that even as we cross past 2030, then we have set the right foundation for this thing. In plan